Broadcasting live from an Airstream somewhere in Tornado Alley, bringing you the people, places, and stories from the Panhandle to the Red River. This is your Only in Oklahoma show.
Welcome to the show. Today we're talking with Rick Nolan about the 2025 Deer Conference and Expo in Oklahoma City. I'm Harley, and Brett is on assignment at one of the greasiest spoons in Oklahoma. So Rick is the president of Oklahoma Hunters and Anglers. This organization has a great mission and some fun and informative events coming up throughout the year for aspiring hunters and anglers. And we're going to jump right into that interview now. Rick, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Rick, if you don't mind just starting us off with what you do with the Oklahoma Hunters and Anglers organization and a little recap of what you guys do.
Okay, good. No, I'm Rick Nolan with Oklahoma Hunters and Anglers, the OHA, as we like to call ourselves. And the purpose and the mission of the OHA is basically to serve the sportsmen and women of Oklahoma and to do what we can to encourage people to get involved in the hunting and fishing sports and to enjoy the heritage that has been, a part of Oklahoma's long-standing heritage for all these hundreds of years.
Hundreds of years, yes. How long have you been involved with the organization, though, Rick?
Well, the organization is relatively new. We've just been had our 501c3 status with the IRS approved about 18 months ago.
Overall, what is the ultimate goal? What are you guys hoping to accomplish with this?
Well, sure. The OHA has two basic focuses. One of them is R3, which stands for the recruitment, retention, and reactivation of hunters and anglers. Mm-hmm. And we do that by offering coached hunting and fishing programs for both the youth and the adult learner. In fact, we focus on the adult learner with our classes and workshops. And the other focus that we have is habitat enhancement on both public and private land. And we do that through working with the Department of Wildlife Conservation here in Oklahoma.
What's that look like from the outside? What are you guys doing?
Well, for example, the Deer Conference that's coming up in August. What we are seeing is nationwide hunter numbers are on the decline. Mm-hmm. Oklahoma's doing a fairly good job of maintaining its own, but what we see is there's a lot of gray-haired old men taken to the woods every year, and there's not nearly as many young folks filling those shoes.
Sure.
So the ultimate 10, 15, 20 years from now, hunter numbers are going to be declining even in Oklahoma. And what makes that so important is the Wildlife Department receives the majority of their funding through the sale of hunting licenses. They don't get any money from the general tax fund. So as hunter numbers decline, so does the revenue generated from hunting license sales. And it takes money to support the wildlife in our state.
Absolutely. And I would assume that there's also an issue with the inverse of that. So if there are less hunters, then you're going to have a lot more deer running wild through the streets and causing accidents and that sort of stuff.
Well, yeah, that's a fact. Hunters are conservation. In the early 1900s, there were very few deer in this state and very few deer really in the whole country. And because of hunters and the contribution they make, both financially and as a conservation tool, we've managed to bring them back. And boy, you're right. If it wasn't for hunters, the deer population, not only would they suffer from automobile accidents, but the land has only got so much carrying capacity,
right,
for the deer, and the deer would end up being smaller, starved to death, et cetera, et cetera.
I would imagine you'd also see an increase in predator activity at that point in time.
Yeah, probably so. I think you could assume that. Yeah.
And then that brings its own baggage with it. as far as, kids and kids and pets being in danger when historically they hadn't been. That makes a lot of sense. So can you tell me a little bit about the workshops you do and what that looks like and how often you do them?
Yeah, we focus, first of all, we focus on the adult learner. So research has shown, and we've experienced it firsthand, everybody wants to get the kids involved.
Sure.
And that's important to get the kids involved. But what happens is if you don't get mom and dad involved, so my grandson is a perfect example. He's 15 years old, lives in Broken Arrow with his mom and daddy. Neither mom or dad hunt, but he is head over heels in love with hunting and fishing because I've been able to take him. So what we've found is, and again, the research shows is if you get a kid and the kid gets all excited about hunting, but if mom and dad aren't there to support that, he's just excited about going and can't get there. Doesn't have the resources, the transportation, etc., to fulfill his dream of hunting. So the OHA focuses on getting new people, new adults involved in the sport. The thinking, especially if you can get mom involved. If you can get mom involved, the kids and dad will come along.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
So that's our focus, is the adult learner. And what we do is we offer basically learn to hunt classes, and also learn to fish classes. So this spring we've done crappie fishing, we've done fly fishing, and we've done a kids event. And we've also done a turkey hunting event. So our flagship event is the Deer Conference, because most Oklahomans that hunt are deer hunters.
Right.
So this is our 7th year of doing this Deer Conference. It'll be at the Metro Tech Spring Lake facility there at their conference center this year. And what we do is we invite up to 300 people. That's our carrying capacity, is 300 people at that facility. And we have subject matter experts that come in and spend an hour talking about 20 to 25 different topics that relate to deer hunting. So, for example, Dallas Barber, who is the big game biologist with the Wildlife Department, he'll talk about deer biology 101 and 102. We'll have a general deer hunting Q&A session. We'll have a game warden come in and talk about regulations. We've got a taxidermist that comes in and talks about field care of the meat, a field to fork session. We'll have intermediate and introduction to bow hunting sessions, how to kill a buck on a budget, shot placement, thinking like a deer, tracking after the shot. We'll have all of those sessions running 5 or 6 sessions per hour. So the hunter, regardless of his experience level, if he's a newbie that's never been, or an experienced hand that just wants to learn more, can pick or choose which sessions they want to go to. So they can go to 2 sessions in the morning, then we'll gather up for lunch, and then 3 sessions in the afternoon. And we'll give away some door prizes, and everybody goes home happy. So that's the Deer Conference. That's our flagship event.
Sure. Now, I would imagine that you're doing a lot of introductions to groups that don't normally, that aren't historically interacting. So the new hunter and the butchers that, will work with deer or wild game regularly, that type of introductions I'm sure are happening. How is that impacting the overall numbers? Because I know a lot of people are squeamish when it comes to certain aspects of hunting in general.
Yeah. No, that's part of the issue with getting people involved, is they're getting them past their squeamishness, as you refer to it. One of the things we did last year, and we're currently negotiating with the venue again, is we did a mentored deer hunt for new hunters. So there's a wedding venue in Chandler, Oklahoma, called the Tatonka Ranch. And the Tatonka Ranch has 1,000 acres of property there.
Yep.
And he contacted us about helping him relieve some of the doe that were on his property. So we put together a program where people could apply for this mentored hunt. Part of the conditions were they had to be over 18 years old. They had to have never not killed a deer in the last 5 years, pass a hunter safety ed, and, some other things. So
Right.
we had about 25 people apply for that. And out of that, we were able to pick 6 people. So we brought those 6 folks out to the ranch on a Friday afternoon. We did a deer hunting 101 workshop Friday afternoon and Saturday morning. Then we went to the gun range and we shot their guns, or had them shoot their guns to make sure they were sighted in. And then we had game wardens come in and take those 6 people deer hunting. And one of the cool things about that was one of the game wardens, we did that in December, during the special doe hunt season.
Right.
Well, one of the game wardens had retrieved a roadkill deer that Friday afternoon. So he brought that game warden, that deer to us, and one of our instructors, who was also a game warden, Jacob Harriet, he actually took that deer and broke it down and showed people how to butcher it.
Right.
And we ran the meat through a grinder and packaged it up and froze it for them, and some of them took that meat home. So that's basically what we try to do, is we try to get people that have never hunted, or to keep people that are hunting, or to reactivate the lapsed hunter, get them back involved in the sport.
Yeah, I'd say you're probably talking to one of those lapsed hunters. I don't think I've actually been hunting in 30 years. But
oh, wow.
But I did it a bunch when I was younger.
Yeah. So why did you get out of it?
Life got the best of me, I'm running nonstop. I got 5 kids, and just one of those things where now that most of the kids are moved out of the house, it's something that I'm definitely interested in looking back into.
Well, so there you go. So you would be the perfect candidate for this deer conference.
I think our co-host might also be a good candidate, but he's never been hunting. So so he would be a perfect candidate to apply for the mentored hunt. That sounds like a lot of fun. Hopefully there weren't any active weddings going on while you were doing.
No, and that was part of the deal. The menu is not busy in certain months out of the year, and December is one of those. So I mean it was really cool. I mean, that play, I don't know if you've ever been out there or not, but the Tatanka Ranch is, they've got, I'm going to say first class for a deer hunting camp.
Yeah, I would imagine, since it's normally reserved for weddings, I kind of imagine that's a little bit nicer than your.
Yeah, it was, I've never stayed in a hunting camp quite that luxurious.
That's pretty awesome. You guys plan on doing that? Are you doing that again this year?
We put those people up in cabins, and I think all of them but one brought their spouse with them. And surprisingly, and we're seeing a trend in women getting involved. And surprisingly, I think we had 6 people, and I think 4 of them were first time ladies that were hunting, and they're wanting to hunt for a different reason than I want to hunt. They're wanting to hunt because they're wanting a good food source of hormone-free, range-fed, whatever you call that, meat.
I'm all for that. I think I might side with them. Like I liked as a younger man going out hunting, but as an older man, I like the idea of knowing where my food came from and what's going into it. Yeah.
And I'll tell you another success story we had. I can't remember, it was 2 years ago or almost 2 years ago. We hosted an adult-only hunter ed class. Because, the hunter ed education class that people take, that's written on about a 5th grade level.
Yeah.
And we wanted to jazz it up and create it more for the new hunter, the new adult hunter, but we wanted to speak to them in a language that they were, more accustomed to. And we covered some topics in that weren't necessarily covered in depth in the regular hunter ed, like hypothermia and stop the bleed and some of that kind of stuff.
Right.
So anyway, we hosted this adult hunter ed class. There was a couple showed up that he was a radiologist from Syria and his wife, and they had never been hunting, but she wanted to hunt, and because of she wanted good, meat for the freezer.
Right.
So they went through the class. I ended up meeting them at the Tri-City Gun Club, and I helped them sight in their rifle. And they booked an outfitter hunt with a friend of mine and fellow board member, Bobby Armstrong. They booked a hunt with him, and they killed, I believe, 3 deer their first season hunting with Bobby, and they're both just head over heels in love with hunting.
You can definitely fill up a freezer with 3 deer.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a great success story.
And that is what the organization was founded for. It's to get new people involved, to reactivate hunters like yourself, and to keep people engaged in the sport. It's easy. Like you said, life gets in the way.
It does. It does. And if it's not something that's top of mind, then next thing you know, you volunteered to do one thing or another, and your weekend's gone, and you forgot all about whatever hunting season it is currently. Right. Well,
the competing interest with kids today, it's baseball, it's soccer, it's all kinds of sports and
Facebook.
Activities. Yeah, Facebook.
100%.
And I'll tell you, here's another success story. I've got 10 grandkids, okay, if that tells you anything. Down in Texas, I've got my daughter and her husband, and she has 2 kids. They were, on up in their teenage years, and, they've been involved in baseball, travel baseball. Of course, they were very involved in their high school. My granddaughter was the homecoming queen at her high school there in Royce City. I never thought about taking those kids hunting.
Right.
First of all, they were in Texas, and I'm in Oklahoma, so you got that distance. And so anyway, so it was Christmas a couple of years ago. My granddaughter, homecoming queen granddaughter, looks me square in the eyes and says, "Pawpaw, when are you going to take me deer hunting?" And I was like, "Emma, you want to go deer hunting?" She said, "Yeah." And her little brother, you're younger, says, "Hey, if Emma's going, I want to go." So we set it up for the following year during the doe season. They came up during rifle season. They came up for Thanksgiving. We had Thanksgiving dinner. We left, went to the ranch. I took Emma out. We got plenty of doe. Took Emma out within an hour before dark. She shot a doe. Next morning, Friday morning, that would be, Saturday morning, I took Micah out. Within an hour after daylight, he shot a doe. Both of those kids had never been hunting, never had an opportunity to hunt. And the sad part is they still don't have an opportunity to hunt because mom and dad are not engaged in the sport.
Yeah, unfortunately, that does happen sometimes, and you're hard pressed to find a parent that's going to let their young kids go out with a gun without them being involved in it at a minimum. I understand you getting the adults involved at this point in time. It makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So
getting the kids involved is important, but getting mom and dad involved is more important.
So your big expo's coming up August 16th in Oklahoma City. Before that happens, though, that's a ways off. Do you have any other smaller events happening that people need to be aware of? And what is the best way to find out about those events, I guess would be my next question.
Right now, on the calendar, we do not have any other events scheduled. We are, however, working on some fishing stuff.
So you got some fishing things happening.
Yeah, we got some fishing things happening. Premature for me to discuss those, but one of them will probably be in Elk City with a kids learn to fish day. So other than that, right now the only thing on the calendar is the Deer Conference. And the best way to find out about that is to go to our website, which is OklahomaHuntersandAnglers.org.
You have memberships available. Can you explain the membership program and what benefit that is for your organization and for the people signing up for the membership?
So first of all, if you come to the Deer Conference, your entry fee into the conference gets you a membership. If you just want to buy a membership, it's $20.
Okay.
And the benefit for the OHA is it just puts it takes money to run these organizations.
Absolutely.
And the founders of the OHA, at least half of the founders, come from other NGOs, conservation NGOs.
Right.
And it got a little tiresome when you go in to talk to a business about potentially partnering with something like the Deer Conference. It felt like we always had our hand out.
Right.
Give us some money. Well, the OHA, it takes money to operate, but our philosophy on money is we just need enough money to pull off a Deer Conference, to, have a kids fishing deal, to do a turkey hunting 101 workshop.
You don't have paid staff, right? This is all volunteer work from your end.
100% volunteer work.
Makes perfect sense.
There's 6 board members, and we take money out of our own pocket to make this thing run. And we started 18 months ago with $0 in the bank. And, just through the grace of God and hard work, we've managed to pull it together. And, we formed an LLC. That takes money. We had to get a lawyer to do that. That takes money. The website takes money. All of it takes money, but we don't want to be that nonprofit that's just always got our hand out. We want to do work. We want boots on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
We had a very successful Deer Conference last year. Had about 250 people show up and covered expenses and had a little money left over. So we went to the wildlife department and asked, what projects have you guys got going that we can donate to? And what does the match look like? Without getting into the weeds, every time you buy a gun, ammunition, archery equipment, etc., there's a federal excise tax on that goes into a big bank account in Washington. And then Washington divvies that money back out to the states based on 2 criteria. 1, the geographic size of your state. And 2, how many hunting and fishing licenses you sold. So there's money sitting in that account. The wildlife department gave us several options, but the one we chose was the wildlife department is building a archery center at Arcadia Lake, and it's going to be nice. They're going to have a 3D archery course. They're going to have an enclosed building. It's going to be nice. We decided we had $1,000 that we were going to give to that project, but one of the deciding factors for that was there was a 9-to-1 match.
Wow.
So we turned that $1,000 into $10,000 of work on the ground.
That's awesome. And that was just the excess from your last year's Deer Conference.
Right.
That's awesome. That's making a huge difference.
And what that project will be next year depends on how much money we got. But that's the benefit to the OHA for our membership. $20. Now, what the individual gets for that $20 is they get first invite to our events, because some of our events sell out early. They get a monthly newsletter, and they get the good, warm feeling knowing that they're contributing to a worthy cause.
I'll take it. That's a good deal in my book. Your website, which is Oklahoma Hunters and Anglers,
and
Anglers.org.
Yep.
You guys are on Facebook. Same
Yep.
thing, Oklahoma Hunters and Anglers. Looks
Yep.
like a good page. You've got a lot of information there.
My email address is Rick Nolan, HR Pro onlyinOKShow@gmail.com. Or I don't mind having my phone number. It's 405-410-1379. And if I could put in a shameless plug, we're looking for sponsors for the conference. If there's any local businesses that would like to look at our sponsor packets, that venue and meal is not cheap.
Oh yeah.
And
we looking at the historicals on your Facebook or on your Facebook page. It looks like you guys go all out. So it sounds like a really good deal just in general. So I could see it being something that needs some help to keep it running the way it's going.
Yeah. And I tell you, we've got our mission statement and we've got, all that jazz, but our motto, which I didn't mention, is really very simple. And that is raised here stays here. So every dollar that's raised by the OHA is put back to work in Oklahoma. You mentioned we have no paid staff. It's all 100% volunteer driven. So, we don't have a corporate office somewhere to send a bunch of money off to pay a bunch of executives to run this thing. It's all run by volunteers.
That's awesome.
And we don't, I know a lot of the NGOs, the conservation NGOs, they do good work. There's no doubt about it. They do good work. But, a large part of that money that's raised goes into salaries. It goes off to Tennessee or Wyoming or Florida somewhere for conservation work, which is important, which is good. But the OHA is Oklahoma centric, and all the money raised is put back into conservation work, R3 efforts right here in Oklahoma.
Well, Rick, I want to thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate what you guys are doing. I want to wish you the best of luck on this next event coming up.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
If you want more information on the OHA and their events, check out their website, oklahomahuntersandanglers.org. And if you like the work that we do here, check out our Oklahoma-themed gear on redbubble.com. I want to thanks again for listening to the Only in OK Show. I am Harley, and we're out of here.